Since its inception, the Toyota Atlantic Championship has had a strong connection with the open-wheel lore of Canadian racing. Nowhere is that more evident than at Toronto, Ontario, where over the past 14 years, those taking the checkers have always represented either the United States or Canada. Indeed, the national scorecard currently stands at 7 wins apiece. And what a rivalry it has been, with some of the best drivers on the continent battling it out for both national pride and personal honors. Exhibition Place has been witness to some of the most exciting confrontations in the 32-year history of this, the world's most prestigious open-wheel development series. Today, however, that exclusive party stands in peril of being crashed by those from other lands. Drivers who are not willing to bow to tradition. Competitors fully intent, as they well should be, upon pursuing their dreams. So far in 2005, neither the Stars and Stripes nor the Maple Leaf has been atop the podium, a circumstance that has never before happened, yet one which may will continue given what we've seen during the first half of the schedule. On the other hand, of course, this is the Toyota Atlantic Championship, a series noted for the unusual, the unexpected twist of fate, the surprise ending. So if, as they say, history repeats itself, we are all in for a terrific second half of the year. Welcome to Exhibition Place in Toronto, Ontario, and round number 7 of the 12-event championship of the 2005 Toyota Atlantics. As we start the second half of the season, here's the way things look with respect to this year's title chase. Dutchman Charles Wolzman leads by 9 points, thanks to his 2 victories at the Cleveland doubleheader, followed closely by 2-event winner Tony Skazmets. And in the C2 Yokohama Cup, Justin Sofio and the Mathiasen Motorsports team still holds proudence over that category, with Dan Cobb, who split Cleveland wins with Sofio, a very close second. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Kramer, and along with expert commentator Jan Beekes and past Atlantic champion Brian Till, who by the way started from pole here in 1990, I'll be bringing you coverage of the 15th time the Atlantics have graced the twists and turns of this challenging temporary road circuit. And after 2 rounds of qualifying over the weekend, Charles Wolzman has claimed pole for the 3rd time this season, joined by David Martinez on the front row. Row 2, 2 rookies, Antoine Bessette and Andreas Wirth. And for Bessette, in 2nd round qualifying, was a step backward maybe a good way to launch forward?
One of the most distinctive cars you'll see on the racetrack, of course, the bright orange, unique auto design, number 3 of Canada's hope. Now think about this, 7 wins for Americans, 7 for Canadians. Your Canadians' hope up here. Provisional qualifying, you're 2nd. You've dropped to 3rd for the race, but is that a better place to start?
Maybe for here it's a better place because you have the inside, and it's 2 corners in the inside of it there. So it's maybe in I hope it's going to be in a better place.
Row number 3 has Tony Skazmets and Long Beach winner Catherine Legg. And for Skazmets, he's recently experienced those infamous swings of racing's fortunes.
For Tony Skazmets, the double win at Portland and the championship points lead must seem like a long time ago. He finished 2nd and 4th at Cleveland, but Tony's, you roll off 5th today, and there's a lot of traffic between you and Charles. What do you need to do to take the fight back to him?
Get the balance in the car right, and pass all the drivers and get to him and pass him as well.
But we're just past the halfway point in the season. The battle far from over.
Normally very effervescent, he is quite focused, stoic even right now. We go to row 4, Al Unser Jr., the top qualified American, and Tom Nastasi. And in first qualifying for Nastasi, a big hit coming onto the front straight. And he was quoted afterward as saying, I realized I probably wasn't going to make 2nd round qualifying when my gearbox passed me as I was sitting there. But the Black Forest crew put their heads down, and he was out for morning warm-up. We continue down the grid. Row 5, Eric Jensen, his first start of the season, and C2 points leader Justin Sofio. Row 6, Ontario rookie Tim Haraney and Dan Cobb, 2nd in C2 points. Row 7, Chris Soliotis and Bob Siska, and qualified in the 8th row and 15th, Daryl Liskey. Let's get back down to Brian Till.
Greg, you talked about the qualifying effort of David Martinez. He starts 2nd, his best qualifying by far of the season. Previous best had been a 5th. But the thing that's so important about that is when you look at Toronto over the last 10 years, 6 of 10 winners have come from the pole position. 8 of 10 winners have come from the front row. So important, in fact, Martinez, the only driver I saw in morning warm-up that actually did a practice start. He threw away the last lap of morning warm-up, came past the start-finish line at pace car speed, and then tried that outside run through turn 1. So we'll have to watch the start. Just another reason why, when you look at this field, it could be the first time in history that we've seen a driver other than an American or a Canadian win the Toyota Atlantic event here in Toronto. Jan?
Well, you heard Antoine Bessette say that starting second really isn't the way to go, because look how tight turn 1 is. The best place to pass, of course, turn number 3, 150 miles an hour down to 40. Awesome passing maneuvers in turn 3.
And you've already seen one of our onboard shots with David Martinez. We're also going to be riding on board with Tony Kasmets, qualified 6th, to flex over to Brayson Swift. And we'll also be riding on board, as I mentioned, with our top qualified American, Al Unser, the number 10, BOSpoker.net entry, who qualified in the 10th spot. And a lot of pressure riding on his shoulders. He and Bessette going for that rivalry, obviously. But as Brian talked about, boy, there are so many other riders, and you've got to be thinking, of course, about Charles Zolzman here. Field starting to pair up, and this is that infamous turn 11 leading onto the front straight and heading down toward the Princess Gates, turn 1. About to go green here in round 7. Now Bessette taking advantage, it looked like, for a moment, but what a move by Martinez, sticking to it around the outside and pulling it off.
There was a big wiggle there. I don't know if there was contact with Martinez, and now he's right over the back of Zolzman. He's going to try it in turn 3.
He is tucked up right there. Look at the stream. Zolzman protect to the inside. Martinez tries the outside, and you can make this work, but there's some serious bumps down here, and he wisely backed out of it just a little bit, Jan. Boy, tell you what, it was a gutsy thought.
Doesn't get much closer than that. Fantastic, aggressive move by David Martinez. If Charles Zolzman had any thought as to whether he was going to have some heat today from Martinez, he knows now.
The answer, a confirmed yes. Field streaming through turn 6, long, winding right-hander. Then there's this quick bend, turn 7, and then into a series of S's that really a fascinating section of track through turn 8, now into 9.
And David Martinez is really sawing at the wheel. That is not a good sign. Certainly the heat may not be totally in the Yokohamas yet, but look, as he saws at the wheel, Zolzman pulls away.
Up on board now. Look back, and Bessette taking a look-see at Martinez for second. Not happening. Boy, look how far over the curb Bessette is there heading through turn 1.
Now for David Martinez, the reason he feels all of a sudden they have leapfrogged in qualifying, they've gone back to the setup, the baseline setup we had in Monterrey, Mexico.
Bessette looking very strong, and he was very fast in practice as we ride now with Al Unser sitting in the 7th spot at this stage. Unser down into turn 3, but Bessette very quick in practice. In fact, practice quicker. One of the few guys who practiced a little quicker than he qualified. So Bessette might very well be very lively here in the race as we continue with Al Unser Jr., a full season participant for the rest of the year. Now, great news.
And you can see how busy this racetrack is, how much feedback you get in the steering wheel across these bumps. This is one of the bumpiest corners coming up. Turn number 8, you're on the brakes, the car jumps all over the place. Look at that, on the brakes, he's left and right. You're supposed to brake in a straight line. That's all about trying to keep the thing straight. And for Al Unser, I asked him, from 0 to 10, where's your comfort level in the car? He says, at the moment, I'm only a 5 or 6. Still learning the car.
Still learning the car, indeed. He has raced here a couple of times in the past in different formula, but Atlantic's a whole different deal. Charles Zolzman continues to build that margin up front. Last time by, a little over a second. Martinez, Bessette right there. Then Berth, and Catherine Legge has gone around and passed Tony Kasmets, and she now holds the 5th spot with Kasmets. In the 6th spot, Unser sits in 7th, and Zolzman at number 11 at the front once again, a spot that he has occupied quite frequently so far this season, and as a result, your leader in the points, he's leading here in Toronto. Welcome back to Exhibition Place in Toronto. That is your leader, just disappearing through the right-hander, Charles Zolzman. And what a season he's having. And I talked to Carlos Pobeda earlier, and Carlos confirmed something that I've been thinking, that not only does Zolzman, obviously, Jan, have great pace, but he said he is very much a thinking driver. He makes great decisions. He really thinks ahead on things, and also is very good at helping get the car set up.
Well, not only is he obviously have that aptitude, but now he's in the zone. Yeah. So these other drivers are like, you got to get this guy out of the zone or we're in trouble.
He's the complete package, that's for sure. Good to see David Martinez continuing to move up, looking very, very impressive this weekend. Then Bessette, who's been fast all season long without any doubt. Berth and Catherine Legge, your top 5 right now as we look back from Martinez back at Bessette. And Bessette had been a bit closer to Martinez a couple laps back, but looks like maybe Martinez now has found his rhythm, his stride just a little bit, and Bessette has dropped off.
For David Martinez, the car was definitely loose at the beginning of the race.
That's Dan Cobb. making his way down into pit lane, and he had a pretty serious incident earlier in the weekend, and he's just, maybe, car's just not quite right. Back on board with Martinez. How's that sounding to you?
Well, it's a good sign. If you catch the rev limiter, as you heard there, that misfire just at the end of a straightaway before a corner means the gearing is just about right.
On to the front straight we go, but we saw Dan Cobb down in pit lane. Brian?
Greg, he just came into pit lane, almost missed his pit box. The guys are saying it's not running right. Something in the engine compartment. Remember, significant damage to the right side of this car. It could be anything electronics down in that side pod. A massive rebuild last night, but he's back underway.
Well, Dan reported he was a bit sore, but otherwise just fine. So that was the good news as we hop on board with Martinez. That time the front view. It looks like he's closing it up a little. Steps out a little bit there into braking. So he's definitely on the edge, but closing up just a little bit. And here is Catherine Legg, the red and white car. And she has closed up a little bit on the number 8 of the German Andreas Wirth. And Catherine's starting to close in.
Looks very racy. Definitely looks as though the car, they have been back and forth, both she and her teammate Bessette, kind of trying to find that sweet spot on the setup. Every track is different, and just because the cars were there where they wanted them in Long Beach, it's different here. You have to kind of just keep massaging it, and I really like the way that car looks and the way that she's applying herself. It's tough to pass here, but thankfully that long straightaway, if you can get off 1 and 2 well, as we know, turn 3, a great place to dive to the inside.
It was interesting after qualifying. Jim Griffith said she got out of the car and she was back in the order a bit, and so he was expecting her to be, the car's not right. She said, don't change it. The car is great. She said, I just had miserable times trying to figure out the traffic. And for all the problems she even admits she has with traffic in qualifying, she is very good with traffic in the race, as she proved in Long Beach, very opportunistic and jumping on opportunity. And as a matter of fact, speaking of that great win in Long Beach, it made for a history-making start to the season as we take a quick look back at it. Then she had some bad luck in Portland, and then the treacherous turn 1 incident in Cleveland ended her day in the first race there. She had a good start in race 2, and it kept her in the top 5 at the end, and still mathematically in the points chase. And once again, she's looking very strong, very racy here right now. And Brian Till, she's closed it up.
Greg, I just checked with Jim Griffith. I said, what did you do to the car? Did you change anything? He said, nope, we didn't change a thing. We just had a good talk. And Catherine may be one of those drivers that at this stage in her career is just a better racer than she is a qualifier. I know Jan can probably comment on that. We see that a lot in young drivers. When they get out there and the green flag falls, they go for it. Just a little bit timid in qualifying from time to time.
Well, I actually think, Brian, I agree with you. I think she's had better races than qualifying, but I don't think it's because she's timid in qualifying. I think she pushes too hard in qualifying. So it is easier to pull a driver back than it is to move them forward. And so if you're too aggressive in qualifying and you bump into a few things, you make mistakes, that's a much easier fix than trying to get somebody to have the speed in the first place.
On board now with the gentleman who's behind Catherine Legg, that's Tony's Kazmits. And Tony's just was not very happy with the way the car was dialed. And I think Tony sometimes will try and carry things a little bit, and that can ultimately result in things slowing down a little bit for you as well. But he sits right now in the 6th spot and needs to move up a lot to be able to stay in that points hunt with a very fast Charles Olsman.
Saw some waving yellow flags, a car off to the left. And if that is the case, that is a place they may not be able to retrieve a car. So it is possible you could get a full course caution, which of course would give a great opportunity to Al Unser and others to close that gap.
10 of 35 laps in, as you see in the graphic, and here is our battle for second, and Bessette once again closing it up just a little bit. Go ahead, Jan.
And Bessette had just previously set the fastest lap of the race on lap 8. So certainly Bessette, his car has come right now, and he's going after Martinez. Brian?
Rihanna just checked in with his crew, and they said they made a couple of changes after morning warm-up, a little bit to balance the car on the suspension. They also took some aero out of it, both to help balance it and to get a little straight line speed. And as you know, to pass here, the best passing zone at the end of that long back straightaway. So making some of that drag out may have been just what the doctor ordered.
Brian, at the top of the show, Jan as well, you were talking about the fact that it's either been a Canadian or an American who's won here, but Bessette is at least right now holding on to the opportunity for another record here, and that is in all 14 races. There's been a Canadian on the podium, but he's got to get by David Martinez, and since David made the step in Monterrey, Mexico onto the podium, he has been getting quicker. He battled with Chris Dyson in Cleveland, and Martinez unfortunately encountered some lap traffic right there, the 63 of Darrell Liskey, which put him into the tires, and it was a tough moment, but you've seen how he rebounded here. The team continued to work with him, puts it on the outside of the front row. So Martinez season just gets better and better and better, and looking very good right now.
And I think that's a great idea. You heard Brian telling us about taking some wing out of Bessette's car. You would rather fight the cars in the corners somewhat when you're not starting at the front, so you can get a good draft down the straightaway and have an opportunity to make passing maneuvers. If you put too much wing into the car, you're just stuck. You're nice and quick through the corners, but you can't pass in the corners. So you got to take some out, get a good run down the straightaway, and hopefully that will work for him. And interesting to me that Tim Hauraney is still there on the left-hand side. Obviously had high hopes being local favorite here, but I'm surprised that they have left the car there unless they think they have got the means with which to somehow get it off.
Yeah, and they're showing the green right in front of him, so apparently they feel that, well, the other option is that's not a spot in the track where you normally see a lot of traffic side by side or down to where he is on the track, so maybe they've just decided to let it sit, and now we're starting to get into traffic, and that's Dan Cobb, who was in the pits earlier and has come out and is just not right now in terms of that car. But traffic so crucial on these street circuits right now, and that, Brian Till, is one of the spots that Charles Olsman seems to be very strong.
Very strong. Carlos Bobeda is watching Charles Olsman with a lot of interest. Guys, you were talking about confidence. Carlos, you've got to see that confidence build in Charles throughout the season. Does he just feel invincible now?
Well, he probably does. I don't. I'm just taking one day at a time. No, we're doing okay. He's happy with the car most times. He's a pretty smart driver. That's actually his biggest asset right now.
Well, confidence for the driver to the car is important, but it seems like the confidence level in this team is up there as well. Those 3 wins really breeding a lot of confidence within the team.
Well, of course. I mean, when you're on top, you feel a little bit more confident. You know, it's like when you're driving. You've been a driver, it's the same. You know, you can feel really confident, invincible, and sometimes you feel so down you don't go.
Well, confidence, the driver's got it, the team's got it, but I'll tell you what, guys, Carlos Bobeda is still wringing his hands down here every race as he watches Charles Olsman run at the front.
Well, the other thing that he has achieved as we drop back and hop on board with Tony Skazmits as he's closing now on Catherine Legge, is Olsman the only driver to have finished every lap run so far this season. And boy, Skazmits getting a huge run. Legge moves over to protect a little bit up front. Big lockup from Worth, and Skazmits trying to sneak underneath, not able to do it. But this battle now is 4th, 5th, and 6th, and it is on. You saw Worth locking up, Legge hounding him, and obviously Skazmits now finding some serious speed and has joined this battle.
And Catherine knew she had to protect the position. There's a fine line between what you're going to get called on for blocking and what you're not. That was right on the edge of what you can get away with. Very well done. But now she knows, I have got to go after Worth or I'm in trouble.
And so she starts the attack, or continues it as it were. A great look at the beautiful CN Tower here on Toronto's lakefront.
Well, now everybody knows that race cars have 4 tires, but this Atlantic machine, it's only got 3. And the reason is, in qualifying, Dan Cobb had big impact with the wall, doing significant damage to the right side of his Toyota Atlantic machine. Now, the good news is Dan got out of the car and is okay. But Dan, you and Justin Sofio, neck and neck in the battle for the Yokohama Tire C2 Cup. Now, I know this is going to set you back a little bit. If you get the car repaired and get it back on the track, what's it going to take to take the lead back to take this championship?
Well, obviously, we got to produce a win. I mean, this kind of stuff happens. You got to get over it, get back into it, and make it happen. Simple as that.
Well, and for for Dan Cobb a second pit stop, but he's heading back out. He continues to try and persevere and get some of those points. And after that hit, I asked him how he was, and he said, I'm sore. He said, I feel like I was dropped on my side. He said, I'm just kind of sore and tweaked a little bit. But I want to ask you, this is the first of 4 straight street course races with these concrete barriers, and how do you balance going fast on these things with leaving with equipment that's still in one piece for the next round?
Well, as a driver, you have to just totally block out any thought of what's going to happen if I hit something. You just can't do it. In the back of your mind, you know you've got to thread the needle, and you can see threading the needle. Zolzman is given an opportunity for Martinez to get right up behind.
Boy, very close traffic, as one would suspect at a street course. We saw it play out in Long Beach, has done it again here. That margin, which at one point was almost a second and a half for Zolzman, has evaporated to nothing. Now, one of the reasons is traffic. The other is we've been watching, and David Martinez has been throwing down quickest lap. Then Zolzman counters, then Martinez another fast lap. So he's been chipping away at it as well.
Yeah, Martinez's car has definitely come around. He is definitely starting to get that balance working for. We were concerned in the beginning how loose the car was, but right now it's very well settled down.
As the race goes on, it's getting stronger as we watch Zolzman from on board with Martinez. And Zolzman has had a very interesting season. It started in Long Beach, but he got a great flag-to-flag win in Mexico, then battled Antoine Bessette for second in Portland. In Cleveland's race 1, he took the lead in the dangerous turn 1 and slammed the door on all challengers. In race 2, he lost the lead from pole at the start, but fought back and took a second set of checkers for a weekend sweep. And that has propelled him into the points lead. It's been a great season, and let's not forget he was fastest on track and qualifying even in Long Beach. Had a technical infraction afterward that forced him to start from the back. So he has had great speed from day 1 in this series. Meanwhile, Martinez has closed it up, Brian, but now the fortunes of traffic. He's dropped off just a little bit, but these two are exchanging fast laps left and right.
Traffic is always going to be an important factor on these street courses, but I did check in with Shane Cinevarante, who is the team owner for David Martinez, and he said, we really studied what the car was going to do, and we set it up to run well at the end of the race. And on a street circuit like this, as the fuel level burns down, and as rough as it is, you really have to think about how's the car going to work on the end. So they made some changes after morning warm-up. They feel really confident with how strong the car is going to be in the second half.
And Brian, next time you get an opportunity, you might want to ask him if he's concerned about how loose the car has been in the early stages of the race. And as that fuel burns off, you talk about which way do they expect it to go, because he definitely has been fighting the wheel in the beginning of this race.
Beyond, the thing that was interesting is when I talked to him, he said, we think the track is going to go loose. So it was interesting to hear you guys talk about how loose the car was early on. I don't know if it was just cold tires or not, but if it continues to go loose, they may have a problem in the last 5 laps.
Well, right as you started talking about it, Brian, he got very crossed up in turn 1. Of course, that may just be the bumps, and Cobb in for the 3rd time, and they're just not getting any speed at all out of that Camelot Construction Swift, and so he's back in the pits, and he does not necessarily want to be out there and just be a moving chicane, obviously. Cobb's a little bit more competitive than that. We hop on board now with Tony Skazmitz through 11, down the front straight. Catherine Legg in front. She's moving over. She's taking a run, and that is some lap traffic, and she got by, but boy, had she got hung up there, Skazmitz would have been in a position to pounce. So Legg timed that beautifully.
I still think he's close enough to make a run down in turn 3, though. He should be able to come to the inside.
Watch for it. He swings out. Well, we're going to step away for just a moment here. We will be right back to Toronto. Welcome back to Toronto, where we are under a full course caution. The pace car out on track, and you see the wave around trying to pick up the leaders at this point, and here is why. That is the number 56 of Chris Soliotis, and has had a significant off right at the end of the tire barriers and into the concrete. And boy, you hate it when you miss those all those tire barriers. They do a phenomenal job, but sometimes your trajectory just doesn't work with that plan. And Soliotis has found the wall, so we are under caution right now. And we're going to see here, Skazmitz had been taking a run at Legg, but may have backed up, may have made the pass, but he may have been put back behind, because if that caution came out, that is would have eliminated that. So obviously, whatever the case, he is back behind Catherine Legg, and we are under caution. One would suspect that was the cause. 19 of 35 laps complete. Now, at this stage, who does this benefit? I mean, Zolzman really looked like he had a great rhythm going, and we were seeing Martinez closing up a little bit, drifting back again. But now with you know, the changes that Brian was talking about, trying to get a car set up for late runs on warm tires, light car, etc. What does this yellow do to things?
It's going to be tough to unseat Zolzman, but it should help Martinez from the standpoint the rear tires are going to cool down somewhat and should tighten up the car a little bit, at least the first few laps. Brian?
We've seen some great battles out there on the racetrack, Jan. Catherine Legge and Antoine Casamet's involved with it. And Jim, I know the official walked over just before we saw that pass attempt down the back straightaway and talked about blocking. Any more word on that?
No, I mean, they just sort of gave her the warning, I guess, and I told her, and I haven't seen anything else since then. I didn't see blocking on the pass. I think she just didn't want it to happen.
Well, Jan, it's like you talked about. It's a very fine line between not wanting it to happen and getting in the way.
I just think she didn't want it to happen. Well, that's a great commentary. Now, the way that they are assessing it, I spoke with Tony Kottman, the race director for the Champ Car Series, and they follow those guidelines. You cannot move off your racing line. So in other words, if you've been driving up the left-hand side of the track all day and then all of a sudden you have someone behind you, you can't all of a sudden go to the right. She kind of just edged over to the right slightly.
So basically they're not only saying you can't block, they're saying you can't defend.
Correct.
All right, so there you have it. It has been played out, and that is what we saw happen if you watched the race in Denver last year with John Fogerty. So they are staying consistent in the rules applications here in Champ Car. We are continuing under the full course caution here while they clean up for the incident. Number 56, again, Chris Soliotis having an off, and they are continuing to work on that. I think I see, yep, one finger from the passenger in the pace car, so we are anticipating going green this time by. Now, as we went to break at one point, number 6, Tony Casamet, was taking a run at getting by Catherine Legge. And remember, he got out there and actually got up and around the outside, but she drifted a little wide in that concrete, and Tony saw it coming and got out of it a little bit, so she was able to blunt that attack.
And that's why she got warned for blocking. She went over to the right-hand side of the racetrack. That is definitely not allowed by the new interpretation of the rules that we got from the race director. And so therefore, my guess is she tries that again, they'll give her a drive-through penalty.
Which would ruin a great race. She sits 5th, but it could be 4th, it could be 6th, and she's in the middle of a great battle right now. As the field picking up speed, Zolzman brings him up and brings him up slowly. Martinez right there. Watch for the green.
Oh, that's going to backfire.
Here we go.
It's going to backfire on him. He brought it up too slow.
Martinez, he's made this outside move work at the start. Couldn't do it. Now he cuts down underneath.
But he's close enough. Martinez should be able to draft him now. Now remember, Zolzman's not supposed to be able to block. He's got to stay and give room. He's not. He's making him go around the long way.
And Catherine Legge jumped up the 4th with a great restart. Meanwhile, Martinez on the outside. Zolzman down inside. Braking, bumps, got to watch for it all. Zolzman turns in, but Martinez sweeps underneath. Not enough room, and Martinez has to tuck back into 2nd. A little wide of the apex right there, just trying to stay with Zolzman.
Well, he's losing some air. He's so close. He's in the higher speed corners here. He's losing air over the front wings. There's some great battles through the field. Unser getting wide. Worth, almost rubbing the wall. Casamet's taking advantage.
Casamet was hounding him, and you're right, he got wide, and Unser trying to jump on that bandwagon as well. Watch, look at Unser fighting the wheel, trying to get the power down here on this track.
Fantastic bit of racing here, and you know they say that racing on cold tires separates the men from the boys, and I guess and now from the ladies.
And this is, as you called it, Jan, Catherine Legge. This is a drive-through for blocking. A great restart, jump to 4th, all gone.
Well, it's because she had a warning, I guess, from the previous one that we had seen where she kind of just towed the line. And that other one, unfortunately, she had moved right, and that is an infraction in the eyes of the stewards.
And let's go back just so you're clear, folks, as to why she was called in. Remember, she feinted to the right earlier to defend going into that corner, and then the second time, she just flat out was. I mean, there was no doubt about it. She was over. She made a couple of counter moves, and now this is going to put her well back in the running order. And, of course, this is her first season. She's a rookie, and she comes from European competition where they don't have those rules, and, you know, they don't care for super aggressive blocking, but they allow, as Michael Schumacher has so aptly demonstrated, that one first big move to try and counter something. Brian?
Catherine Legg seemed very calm as she drove through pit lane, but I'm sure there's a lot of heat inside the helmet, Jim. Does she understand what happened, why she got the black flag?
Well, not exactly. I mean, she thought she was allowed one move. She felt she made just one move. I guess, that's the official's call. They've got a better view of it than we do. So.
A disappointment down here, but like you said, Jan, a very fine line. She obviously crossed it in the official's eyes.
Well, unfortunately, what has happened, Brian, is they've changed the rule, as we'll have it again applied here, is that Zolzman is making Martinez go around the outside.
Boy, Martinez was by, then Zolzman slid up.
Awesome.
Martinez is through. Too much speed on that concrete patch for Zolzman, it looked like, Jan, and big slide, Martinez pounced.
Wow, that was awesome. Zolzman was coming in, protecting the inside, but not all the way against the wall, making him go to the outside, and then that's the old duck underneath move. That was well done by David Martinez. It's something you try to suck somebody in so they go too quick across the apex and then duck back underneath.
When we went on board with Martinez and he got by him, and all of a sudden you saw Zolzman rocket back by, the first thing that went through my mind, he took the bait, because that inside line awfully tight. Brian executed to perfection.
Oh, it's a textbook move. Classic, very well done. And the thing about it is, it could be that full course yellow that allowed that pass to happen. I checked in with the team, and they said, we needed that yellow, Jan, just like you've been calling it. They said Martinez was going loose, so that full course yellow helped cool the tires down. He's got a good car underneath him. The question is, how long will it last?
Well, Brian, Bessette has now gone by Zolzman as well. When Zolzman made the slide, it appeared like it broke up his rhythm. Bessette was hounding him and heading down into turn 3. Really, the run out of turn 2 by the Princess Gates is when Bessette made that pass, and he is now running away from Zolzman, and coming after him is Worth. So maybe Zolzman, something happened just a little bit here. Let's watch. Oh, and here's number 23, Tom Nastasi, at a crawl down the front straight. Remember that huge hit in that first round of qualifying. The Black Forest team worked feverishly just to get that car back out on the track. He was running well, but now all for naught. A great effort nonetheless. You know what? We've seen some passes and repasses here. There's a few guys who'd be giving up pink slips on cars and walking home. But we've got a race afoot here.
Well, I think the reason we're having passes and repasses is because of the rule that unfortunately Catherine Legg fell afoul of. In other words, we heard Jim say that he thought that she was allowed one move. That was changed for this weekend. She used to be allowed a move. Now that everyone is forced to stay in their racing line, we're seeing people pass and repass. We've seen Unser have some great opportunities, and certainly had some opportunities where he's been in these bumpy corners really fighting the steering. And Zolzman's in trouble.
Well, he was slowing, and we were watching those guys go by and drive away. This is the first real chink we've seen from this team mechanically at all this season. He's making his way down into the pits, obviously a very slow speed limit here, but he was dropping back anyway. And talk about a major swing at the front, not just of this race, but potentially in the points. And there's Carlos Bobeda and the Condor Motorsports crew waiting for him to come in that long run, and Brian's there.
Well, we talked about Carlos Bobeda earlier in the team and what a high they were on. Now they're going to experience the lows of racing. Report from Zolzman, lost power on the car, and that Toyota engine beginning to overheat. They saw it on the temperature gauge. The power was going away. He is now on pit lane, and guys, I smell a lot of oil. I don't think Zolzman will be going anywhere today. Only 7 points in the championship lead. That's going to go away.
Talk about frustration after the season he had and after the race he was having up here to just sit and park now. Now we hop on board David Martinez, who now in that Rochefran Swift is our leader, but Antoine Bessette sits in the second spot in that unique auto design machine right behind him, and the margin about half a second. And Bessette has shown some tremendous pace this week, and as we said, he was quickest in the practice sessions and was actually quicker in practice than he qualified. So boy, that bump right there is unnerving for sure, but he is closing up right now and starting to hound Martinez, under braking into 3 through 4 and up now into 5.
And the thing about Antoine Bessette is we had heard that they'd taken some wing out of that car, and we saw the way he passed Zolzman before Zolzman ran into trouble. The thing is a rocket ship down the straightaway. So if he can get close enough in turn 1 and turn 2, he will have a lot of pace down the back straightaway.
Meanwhile, there is Charles Zolzman out of the car. Brian?
Well, very disappointed Charles Zolzman. We've talked to him after winning races before, 3 victories this year. and I know you guys have so much confidence. How easy is it going to be to come back from this? I know it's disappointing now.
It's going to be very difficult. In this championship, you got to score points, and mechanical failure is deadly.
Well, disappointing on the face, obviously disappointing on the face of Charles Zolzman. Guys, he was the only driver in the series to finish in the top 10 in every race so far this season. That record now gone.
Well, Brian, he also may have jinxed him. I said he was the only driver to have finished every lap, and that certainly has changed. Bessette looking for Martinez, but not quite close enough at that juncture. But obviously the young Quebecois is very racy. And Jan, I wonder if in his back of his head your words aren't echoing about his responsibilities toward keeping either a Canadian or an American at the top of the podium in the winner's circle here.
Well, he definitely wants to win. I guarantee you he could care less about statistics. He just wants to have his stat and try and get his victory here.
Well, he's on the podium at this stage, but he wants the win, as you said, and looking very good here in the waning stages of the race. And we ride on board right now with our 5th place driver, Al Unser, the BOSpoker.net Swift, number 10. And top American right now. And again, Antoine Bessette second for the Canadians at this point. And when we broke away, he was hounding our leader, David Martinez, and is still right there. It's very, very close. The margin now under half a second, about 4/10.
He's in the draft. He's close enough now.
Swings out. Trying the outside. Now going to cut down underneath. Martinez having used that move for the cut-down move.
Martinez has done a very similar thing to what Catherine Legge had done earlier when she received a warning.
Yep.
He drove down the middle of the racetrack. And again, it's that fine line. They say you must stay on your racing line. So if he's been going up the middle of the racetrack every time, that's okay. If he had been approaching on the left and now moved to the middle, they're not going to like that.
Well, and he has been usually farther off to the left, but they did give Catherine one warning, so maybe that's what they're looking at here, and maybe they're going to talk to the team and say, that's it. Does it again, a problem. So Martinez has to be very, very careful right now, and Bessette has to just keep heaping on the pressure as he seems to be doing. Brian?
I checked in with both teams, both for Martinez and for Bessette. It's going to get really interesting, guys. 5 laps to go. Both team managers said we're going loose, real loose. So it's going to be exciting here in the last few laps as Tonise Kazmits comes to pit road.
Yeah, Brian, he is in, and no indication what this is, but crew members got a tire there. What's up?
Looks like they're looking at the left rear. Greg, definitely going to change the left rear tire on this machine. It looks like the wheel nut is actually loose on that tire, and if it's loose, it could have done some damage. They may not be able to get it back on tight.
What they do is they have a safety pin there that will keep the nut from coming all the way off. But yes, certainly that has become loose for some reason. And I would think you'd want to take that off to be sure there wasn't any serious damage. But, of course, they're trying to save as many points as they possibly can.
They just snugged it up, and you can see bits of metal flying there as they hit it with the gun. But he is heading out. But, boy, on a golden opportunity as he was sitting third with Zolzman pit side and parked for Kazmits to make up big chunks of points. And now he's going to drop back as he crosses the timing line, shown in 8th right now. So huge problems for that. And Martinez, I mean, he's risking now going down a lap as Martinez coming around in a hurry. As a matter of fact, there is Martinez with Bessette right behind him at this stage. So Kazmits, a golden opportunity gone.
We saw how dejected Charles Zolzman was. He'll still be somewhat disappointed, but seeing his closest rival in the points come through pit lane, he's going to be, well, at least if I had a bad day, he's also having a bad day.
Yeah, and it's those two, and then a fairly significant margin of just a little less than 30 points back to Bessette, who's going to close it up a little bit. But, yeah, for Zolzman, the gods smiled suddenly after looking so bleak for him right now. And see Kazmits, there's Martinez, then Bessette. And here is Antoine Bessette, and still hounding Martinez. And with that yellow, traffic wasn't a factor for a while, but as we close in on these final few laps, 3 to go right now, it might well start to play again. And for Antoine Bessette, Long Beach, well, he made the podium, but then he tangled with Zolzman in Portland. And then in this battle with Andreas Werth in the first Cleveland race, he hit the wall. Boom! In race 2, he held the lead for a bit, was eventually passed by Kazmits and then Zolzman, and eventually came back, though, to finish second. And Just a great season for Antoine Bessette, especially for a guy who started in sedans and rally cars and not much of a... Oh, and he has gone to the front. Kazmits, they were closing on him. But he has gone by and picked up the lead. And what a great story here for the young Quebecois. Again, we talked about it at the top. 14 races previously here, 7 wins by Canadians, 7 by Americans. And Bessette back in front, 2 laps to go. Absolutely a great story, Cinderella story, if you will, in the making. Well, except for one thing. He's been fast all season long. I think a win was inevitable. It was a matter of when. But what great timing.
And it was the timing of the situation where they caught Kazmits, which just slowed down Martinez just enough for him to get close enough to make that run down the back straightaway.
Down through one. Not only has he made the pass, he's drawing away, but here's how he made that pass, and it was, boy, a good aggressive move.
On the approach to turn number 1, again, because Tonis Kazmits was ahead of them, took a little air off them in some of the higher speed corners. And on the final lap here, this is not over. You see that Andreas Wirth is also close enough to shake up the podium.
And Wirth, well, I tell you, he thought he had a much better car in second qualifying than he could show, because right as he got clear of traffic, he said, I just raised the tire barrier and snapped the valve stem on the car, started to lose tire pressure right when he was going very quick. And we are on our last lap, and there is the crew, and antsy, understandably so, in those bright orange shirts. Turn 8, starting that series of great sweeps. Left, then right, and then the infamous turn 11 here. Onto the front straight he comes. Antoine Bessette coming to the line, the Polestar Racing Group, and the young Quebecois gets the win here in Toronto on Canadian soil. The streak remains alive of either a Canadian or an American atop the podium here. The 15th consecutive year Canadians been on the podium, and elation everywhere for this great team. What a great effort. Martinez right there off coming up to congratulate him. And what a great run for him as well. But the celebration's about to begin. We're going to step away. When we come back, we will visit with our winner.
Antoine Bessette takes the victory, twice a bridesmaid this year, and finally the victory, but most importantly, it comes in front of the home crowd. What's it mean?
Oh yeah, I'm really happy. It's incredible to win here in Toronto with the I don't know what to say. I'm so happy. It's I was pushing hard all along. I was pushing pressure on David, and he did a big mistake in corner 1, and I had my chance. So I'm very happy. It's incredible. I'm so proud.
Very, very happy indeed. Big donuts at the finish line. Antoine Bessette, his first Atlantic victory.
And there's Richard Spinard giving him a big congratulations, one of Canada's legendary drivers, as we take a look at driver instructors, I should say. Final results, Bessette, Martinez, Wirth, great drives. Al Unser up to 4th. Catherine Legge rebounded to 6th. And, of course, for Kazmits, sitting back there in 8th, obviously that hurt when he had an opportunity to make big ground up on Charles Olsman, who's feeling even worse about it, about not finishing the race. But with Kazmits dropping back on the order, the damage perhaps not quite as bad. Well, this is Greg Creamer for Jan Beekes and Brian Till. Thank you for joining us for round number 7 of this 32nd season, the world's most prestigious open-wheel development series, the Toyota Atlantic Championship. Reminding you, join us for the next event, Saturday, July 23rd, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're coming to you from Edmonton, Alberta, a brand new Atlantic venue featuring a brand new temporary circuit. Don't miss it.